And welcome to another edition of the Nerdy Agent Podcast. I'm your host, Luke Pedersen, with my brothers and fellow nerds, AJ and Josh. The Vikings, as predicted, are 2-0, soon to be 3-0 when you listen to this. They are the best team in the NFL. They are going to win the Super Bowl, and Sam Darnold is the truth. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get into the topic for this week. What I was thinking would be super helpful for the agents out there, just because it's September, mid-September. We're getting kind of to the latter half of the year where agent business might slow down a little bit just based on what the market ebbs and flows. Give you some ideas on what you can do on how to finish off 2024 strong to have a good 2025. We harp this with our agents all the time, but we believe the latter half of the year not only is a great time to get business because of buyers can sometimes be easier to get into houses, but also it's the best time to prepare for the next year, because if you take the latter half of the year off, your 2025 or your next year is going to start super slow. So we want to chat about some things you can do to prepare for that if you find yourself less busy. I want to break into 3 different categories. I was thinking how to properly serve your past clients and continuing to touch them, because it's a great time of the year if you have some time to make sure you're still in front of them. How to go out and get new business or build for new business next year, and then also agent education. So stuff you can look into as an agent to learn more and become better at what you do. So to start, do you guys want to talk about past clients, how to continue to serve them as we head into the end of the year?
I feel like you're the best at this.
The past client follow-ups? Well, I think you could. I mean, I can start with past clients.
Yeah, you should do it. You're the best at this.
The first thing I was going to say was events, and have you talk about Pi Day.
Sure.
Do you want to run with that quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do 2 in-person client events a year. Our agents can invite any of their past clients to that. We did our picnic in June, I believe, this year, which is more of like a informal, casual type deal. We get a food truck. We have a whole setup at a park, and it's just a good way to get in front of a lot of people. But the Pi Day is our biggest event with clients. I think we had 250, maybe something like that last year, 250 pies.
It's going to be more this year.
I believe it was $6,000 worth of pie that we handed out at our Pi Day. And people typically stay a little bit longer at that one, and it's inside, so it gets...
We racked up with like a $3,000 bar tab last year.
Something like that, yeah. So it gets to be a very active, energetic type environment. And I think I've told people this, I've brought team leaders over to EXP and had conversations with them about their past client events, and most agents just like don't do it at all. Ours ends up being like a really big party, which is really fun. But I think some agents get overwhelmed by the fact of planning it, and I don't think that they realize that planning something like that's really not that difficult. And then they also are like, well, what if nobody shows up? And I'm like, well, what if like 10 people show up and you have 30 past clients and you get to talk to 10 people meaningfully for a longer period of time? It is extremely impactful.
In both those cases, why don't you just come hang out with us?
Yeah,
because we're gonna have we're gonna have probably 400 people at our event. So if you're only gonna have 10 come to yours, just piggyback on ours. Come join our team.
Right, exactly.
We'll plan the whole thing for you and pay for it.
Yeah, no kidding. It's just a great way. I think we talk a lot about how manual follow-ups are super, super necessary and important. I think a lot of folks try to automate or do no follow-ups with their past clients at all. And I think the event is one way that you can talk to 50 or 60 of your past clients potentially in one night, and you can log all of that in your CRM. And rather than having to do 50 or 60 manual one-to-one reach outs, you just get to see all of them and have good conversations with them and give them something.
And what I love about an event like Pi Day is it does kind of feel like, Thanksgiving, Christmas, or holidays, New Year's, everybody's talking about being thankful and grateful about things. And so it becomes, one of the reasons I love real estate is because it isn't weird for me to like give one of my friends a signed Rome Odunze jersey because he's my client, and it's like not a weird thing to do. And so giving pies to people isn't weird. It's a write-off. They don't consider it to be weird though, because you're the real estate agent. It's kind of like somewhat expected that you give them some things because you're grateful for their business and whatnot. And so I think that event's super cool. On top of that, I think something that you can do because there's a lot of new agents that have 10, 20 clients, and again, they're overwhelmed by planning it, or they're worried nobody's going to show up. You could just think of some sort of a basket that says, I'm thankful for you. Here's some stuff to help you get through the holidays, and put together 10 of those baskets and just drive it over to all their houses, because then you don't have to worry about people showing up. You can, if you're worried about talking to them, you could just drop it off and leave, or you could get the FaceTime if you wanted to.
I think the biggest fallacy in some of the things that people say and feel surrounding past clients and or friends and family is this belief that they're doing it because they're a real estate agent, right? Like this, well, I'm a real estate agent now, so I'm going to start just doing some things, and I'm going to do them in a way that is for my business, versus just like I've said this from the start, our job allows us, the free time in some cases, to be like, it's 12 o'clock. Do you want lunch? Because I have free time at lunch. And the financial structural reason to just really appreciate people that you've worked with in the past, or that have transacted with you, or that are your friends, or that are your family, in a way that just, it makes sense. But it's also just, it just allows that freedom to do it in a way that I didn't feel like I had when I was working 7 to 5 every day, and then my weekends were busy with all these other things, right? So I think most people think of it as a transactional thing versus like how do I make sure that the people around me feel as important as they are to me? And that the business side of that is, if you treat people kindly and you give people stuff and you make them feel important, there will be likely potentially some business benefit on the back end. At least my experience has always been the business side just seems to come if I'm approaching it from how do I want to make people that are important to me feel important? And so that's always been the goal in the way that I've done this, is never to come at it from a transactional standpoint, to be like, oh, I'm on Facebook. This person's having a baby. I'm going to send them a onesie, or I'm going to go to their house and drop off a DoorDash gift card and some diapers or whatever. Something that like actually makes their life inherently better and like fits the stage of life they're in, or like the moment that they're in, or this person's having a hard time, so maybe I'll reach out and see if they want to get lunch. Like doing those kinds of things is something that we like are allowed to do now. And that's been really cool for me to be able to do. And I think if you think of it that way, there's also just the reality that you're going to have benefit coming from that from a business standpoint down the road.
Can I tell a quick story though? It's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, first off, how many times have you had somebody give you a pie in your entire lifetime?
Never.
Never had anybody do that.
Well, I kind of give myself a pie every year.
There you go. How many times have you had somebody just drop something off at your door just being nice?
Rarely.
Super rare, right? So it's pretty funny. So I think I might have told Josh this one, but so in 2019, we were doing our basement and we had a dumpster at our house. So me and Emily always get rid of stuff. We're like very big on just having less stuff. And so we were in our back room clearing out space, and I had my Minnesota Twins duffel bag from spring training down there. And I'm like, I had already had a New Britain Rockcats one, which I thought was way cooler. So I kept the New Britain Rockcats one, and I threw away the Twins when I threw in the dumpster. 2 weeks ago, Rick Delorier comes over to my house with the duffel bag I threw in the dumpster 5 years later. And I was like, I didn't know my name was on this. Oh, and he's like, no, I had someone do that. So he put my name on the duffel bag. He put 8 wiffle balls inside, and then he put two laminated things. One was an article from when I was coaching at Chanhassen, and one was my graduation party invitation laminated inside of it.
And for anyone who doesn't know, Rick is a successful business owner and salesperson and recruiter.
Wait, how did he get the duffel bag?
He grabbed it out of the dumpster. He walked by the house and he was like, he shouldn't throw that away. And he took it.
Oh, because you were in it was your Minnetonka house.
Yes.
Oh,
he took the duffel bag out of the dumpster and he kept it for 5 years, and then he gave it to me. And I was like, wow, that was so nice.
That's
and
an
he didn't do that.
incredible
And he didn't do that for
No
any
reason.
business reason other than just
Wanted to.
being kind.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's
but anyway,
incredible.
it's just like you think about these ideas, and if you think about, we talk about all the time, like EQ and understanding how somebody else would feel if you said something or did something for them. If it's not happening in their life right now and it's a nice gesture you can do for somebody, they're probably going to feel really important and really special when you do that for them. So I think, again, on your topic of past clients, like just doing cool stuff for people.
Yep.
You know, we talk about another one. I mean, Luke can get into what he does for a lot of his past clients, but like every time I have a client or a friend that is having a baby, I send them the same book from Amazon. It costs me $8. Every single person texts me and says, wow, that was like the nicest thing. Like everybody gave us, diapers, or we had a party and people brought stuff because it was a party, but no one like is just sending stuff just because they're trying to be nice and they think they might enjoy it.
Yeah. And it comes back to, I think, too many agents think of this business on what's in it for me, right? And I understand that, right? There's this component, you have to make a living, you have to do your job. But if you're approaching all of your transactions, relationships, past clients as what's in it for me versus what's in it for them, there's no reason for you to even really be doing anything if that's the way you're coming about it. But if you're approaching it from how can I just continue to help people, right? That's always the goal in the business, and that's always the goal with some of these things. And how can I make someone smile today, right? You're going to actually see the business side benefit way more than if you're like, well, I was going to send them this nice thing, but I'm going to save some money because I want to do this. So I'm going to send them a box of pre-made cookies that every client gets the same pre-made cookies and they all say my name on. Like, it just doesn't go as far as like
the knife with the
be thoughtful.
Contact info on it.
A cutting board, right? That's got your name on it. It's
Looking at the time, just making sure we're continuing. I wanted to piggyback on that before we get to the next topic, because I think that giving gifts and meeting with people, and that's all great, and you should be doing that, but also giving them something and actually helping them. The other thing you can do in the second half of the year or in Q4 when stuff starts to die down is you can service your past clients. If you have 20 of them, you can go and send them all personalized emailed market analyses of their property to give them an idea on what the snapshot of what their house is worth right now with comparable sales, so they can dig into that. And you can actually provide actual value.
What's the line that you use, Luke, when you do that for them?
The real estate health check.
What's the opening line
of the health check? Well, we would have to get into.
Do you remember your opening line though?
I know you're not looking to sell right now, but I wanted to just make sure you were aware of what's going on.
I know you're not looking to sell right now.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make you aware.
It's just really, I know you're not looking to sell right now. I just really wanted to make sure that I'm still servicing my past clients and giving you up-to-date information, because I feel like it's part of being a good real estate agent. Anything like that, sending that to them is actually of value, and they can maybe use that because you don't know what conversations they're having. You don't know if it's appreciated to a point where they're trying to pay off other debts and get into something, or any way that you can help them is really important. Second topic is going to be getting new leads, getting new business, and what you can do for that.
I'd say, but it's what I do typically in the second half of the year. I think the best time for certain groups of people to buy homes is in Q4. So I tend to lean a little more heavily, especially as interest rates are coming down. There's going to be more of a dialogue, probably with my investor clients as we're getting into the second half, because there tends to be less competition from the buy side as we get into the Q4. Now, with rates coming down, it might be interesting to see if more of the first-time home buyers come out. That's the second group of people that I'd be engaging a little more. Like if there were first-time home buyers that decided to stop shopping in the spring, instead of waiting till January, I'm always encouraging them to get out before the rush of the new year. Because if you can get in when the market's less competitive, you can save money on the front end. Or as an investor, you might be able to buy something at a low price because no one else is shopping at that time. So from a new client standpoint, it's more of a past client thing, but I'm engaging with some of the different buckets a little bit differently because of this seasonality of Q4.
You're looking back on the people you had conversations with during the year that didn't end up transacting. If you're not keeping track of the conversations you had with people, that's a whole nother podcast. I'm sure we've talked about our CRM somewhere. You should go dig that one up.
Yeah, but the goal is always, once again, I always encourage every client that I work with to transact when it makes the most sense for them. And so if I know them well enough to know, okay, this market has now gone to a place where it's more pragmatic for them to be transacting than it was when it was spring and rates were 7.5 and every house was in multiple offers. Well, now rates are down a point and there's less competition and there's more houses on the market. Like, it might make more sense. Or an investor who couldn't make the math work in the spring, it might make more sense now. So trying to just engage with some of those different people and almost re-engage, maybe is a better way to put it, kind of past relationships is a good time to really be doing that.
I was going to piggyback on that and say it would be a great time to tailor some of if you're on social media, tailor some of your messaging on social media towards people like that. Talking about how cyclically the market gets a little bit slower in the winter, that might be a good time. Talk about how you've read leases and figured out what the buyout for your first-time home buyers. Tell stories about that. Or maybe talk about how paying $4,000 to buy out of your lease might actually save you money because the house you're going to buy statistically is $10,000 less. Something like that to try and drum up some of that too, because I know people would engage with posts like that.
Absolutely.
But to go back to like what I said earlier about always thinking about your clients and not yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Like I sent you guys a post this morning from Keeping Current Matters that drove me nuts. It was just like the best time of year to buy is September 15th to September 19th or whatever it was.
It's the most closely upcoming weekend that we're going to have. The soonest right now is the best time.
The bit that I sent you guys was the Reasonablists on Parks and Rec. If you haven't watched it, it's a group of people that think the world is going to end at a specific date, and then every 2 years they change their mind to a new date because it doesn't end on that date.
That's a funny bit, but it actually exists in real life, I think.
It does, right? People do this all the time, but it's like there's like this is the best time, and then when people don't buy, they're like 2 months later, like actually this is the best time to buy. Is it just?
We thought it was the end of September, but now it's the end of October.
In I say this, but any statement that you're making on that level, in terms of just like it's the best time for everyone at the same time, it's so irresponsible because every person is so different and every situation is so unique, and so. Maybe for a certain person, it is the best time to buy, and explaining to that person why is more important than just broadcasting out just a big statement like that.
If you are on a team that does have, let's say, lead generation, I don't know what your specific situations are, obviously, and you're somebody who does a lot of Sphere business. I know all three of us mostly run our businesses on Sphere. Me and Josh do a little bit of lead generation. Q4, end of the year, is the time to start dipping back into that if you start feeling like you're a little bit slower, because maybe take a couple and then you could drum up a little bit of business as you head into the next year. I've always found that personally for myself, who does a lot of Sphere business, to be another super beneficial piece. And then the last thing I had was just open houses. I really think open houses at all times when you get slow are really important to add back into your business. And so if you're heading into the end of the year and you don't have much going on, it's one of the easiest things to do. If you obviously have listings, or if you're on a team, or if you know people that have listings, you can reach out to them pretty easily.
I still remember the story of one of our former agents on our team in his first year. He took every single lead he could possibly get in December, and he sold 12 homes on Zillow Leads in the first quarter of the year, the next year. Again, thinking like all we've been talking about, but like thinking with the long game or even just the mid game in mind, and not so much like what do I need to do right now to sell something, but like what could I do now that's going to lead to a sale in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months from now? And a lot of it is, you know, just taking more leads. And I think the Sphere game is more of like a 1 year, 2 year, maybe 18-month sort of thing. And I think too many folks either don't do it because they can't stand to wait, they have no patience, or they just don't see the benefit within a couple months. And so they're like, I met with 20 friends, nobody bought a house, so now I'm going to stop doing this.
Doing it for themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And they don't see the benefit of the long game. And I think that the Sphere conversations, and what Luke we could lead into the next topic, is being super educated in those conversations is really the most important thing. Because meeting with them is great, and I think there's a lot of agents who people like, right? And people like them, and that's fine. But to really be a value add to the transaction when the time comes, you need to really know what you're talking about.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So you're at the end of the year, you have a couple hours extra a week now. Maybe your business is a little bit slow, like we've been talking about the whole time. I think agent education becomes super important, whether you're learning more about houses, how they're built, whether you're reading the forms. You probably should have already, but we're doing a forms training in an hour and a half with our agents so they can learn more about the forms and how to articulate those better to their clients. But just throw out a few ways that people can become more educated.
Well, so when I first started, like me, I made a spreadsheet, but so I had a whole bunch of time, right? Because I had no clients, and my goal wasn't even to have a bunch of clients right away. It was to get good at my job. I told people this, my first year, people ask like, well, how many houses do you want to sell? I set 0 goals. My goal was only to get really good at my job as fast as possible and to help as many people as wanted my help. Because I knew that if I got better at my job more quickly, I'd be able to have more success in the long run. But the first couple weeks, I was like, well, I got 10 hours to kill, right? So I built a spreadsheet of every single city in the servicing area that I would be essentially working in. I built that spreadsheet with when were most of the houses built? What types of styles are they in? What price ranges are they in? What school districts are in those areas? What amenities and things are they known for? What restaurants and things like that are around there, right? And started just filling this in so I could make myself knowledgeable that if a client's like, yeah, I really like something a little newer, not the 50s homes, but I want to be in the West Metro, but I want to be within 20 minutes of this place. I could be like, you're going to be in Plymouth, right?
I was gonna say Maple Grove,
Eden Prairie.
Well, if it's I want a brand new build, it's well, you might be in Corcoran then, right? I didn't even know what Corcoran was when I started in this industry, right? But I can now have this mental map of I talk to somebody and I'm filtering out everything they're saying and basically drawing a map for them of exactly where they're going to end up.
And further, you're talking about people that might be looking for a home. there's a lot of people who maybe they already bought a home with you and it's November and you're having lunch and they live in Wayzata School District. And so then you do a little bit of research on what's going on in Plymouth and Wayzata, and you go, oh, how do you feel about that new referendum they just passed? And like, they might not even know that it happened, right? And it's like, being that thought leader and knowledge expert in each conversation is so important. But to Luke's point, like I know, Luke, you said you were researching some structural type things, like knowing houses too, right? So that when you do get those clients and they are looking for a 90s house, you know the things to look out for in a 90s house, like casement windows that are 35 years old. Like, I really like to check on all these because typically there's lots of problems with these, and here's how much it would cost per window to replace, and da 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 da. And you just become so much more good at your job, Josh, to your point. I think by doing that, educating yourself.
An example I would say is like, I'm going to meet a client out with a contractor today to try to talk about a big project that they weren't thinking about working on. They called me because they thought that I knew what I was doing when it comes to projects and construction in regards to, you know, buy this house, you put this much work into it, how much is it going to cost, what can I do, et cetera. But my big thing on the project was like, I think there's a setback concern here, right? Like with where the garage is built right now and how you're going to go over that, the rules within the city, not to get too detailed. I was like, I think there's a concern here. One of their friends is a neighbor, and the neighbor is very versed in things. They're having a conversation and they're like, well, we did a project like this and this and this. And he's like, the biggest problem probably is the setbacks that you're going to run into. But the fact that I was already versed in setback rules within this city that we're talking about and could explain that on the front end to him, so that when he talks to somebody else and someone says, I did that project and here was the problem that I ran into, he's like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about, because I already told him what the problem was going to be that he then found out was the problem after the fact. But you have to be thoughtful about who you're trying to work with, what they're going to need to know, and then how you're going to educate yourself to be able to deal with those situations.
And going back to the just the house specific stuff, if you did want to learn literally anything about a house, and this has even increased in the last 5 years since I started.
Yeah.
So in 2019, when I was starting, I watched This Old House, all these videos about repairs. If you literally Google casement windows, potential issues, and what to look for, there will be a 10-minute video of somebody showing you a bad casement window and what to look for, like pretty easily. I Googled yesterday installing and fixing posts in basement, and just had a whole video of someone doing it. Sistering a joist in a basement, had a whole 20-minute video of a guy doing it. You can literally find any of that stuff on the internet. And so then when you're with your clients and you're in basements, you're able to actually provide them value, opposed to, like you had said, it is important that people like you, but opposed to just being liked and opening doors.
Last thing I'd say is have a person for everything, right? So if you don't have a list of like, here are my people, find somebody, right? So a contractor for a GC, an electrician, a plumber, a HVAC person. The list could go on. An accountant. Like you can get so wide, but like you need to be able to have those kinds of people, because when someone runs into a problem and they're working with you, they're probably going to ask you, well, what about, do you have somebody who can help me? Or even if they don't have somebody who can help you, you can just throw out like, I have someone who can help you if you want help with this. That list provides a lot more value outside of just, once again, Luke said, opening a door.
And if you have 30 minutes and you call your electrician, you should call your electrician someday and say, hey, I got 30 minutes free today. What are you working on?
Yep.
And they might say, I'm wiring a basement. And you might say, hey, would it be cool? Like, I won't slow you down. Can I just swing by and watch you do that for 30 minutes today? Because it'd be really helpful for me to learn how you go about doing your job. I'm not going to do it myself, but at least I would have the knowledge to know how you're going to do it when I refer you the business in the future. And you're going to learn so much. I mean, go to a new construction house and meet with the building supervisor and say, hey, I have some clients poking around the area. Could I just like walk through a model that's framed and you could like show me all the things that you did to frame this house? People don't think to do that in real estate. I think too often they think about the sales aspect of it rather than actually knowing the product. And if you just think and you're interested in something and you think about what you could do with that interest and passion, and you just go full speed ahead at it, you will learn stuff, but you won't be able to snap your finger and know it, right? And you have to, like Luke's going to have to watch videos for hours and hours and hours before he knows exactly how that post gets replaced, right? But once he does, he goes into a basement and sees one that's rotting out and he goes, oh, I just watched a video on this. I could literally show you how to do it, or I could show you how my carpenter will do it for you. Right? And it becomes so much less scary for that person, and they trust you so much more because of that.
But I think to AJ's point earlier, if planning an event sounds daunting, or learning about houses sounds daunting, or trying to understand how to set up a system for past client follow-up sounds daunting. Like, we're doing all of that right now. So to talk about, like, not to pitch, but like, if you don't feel like you have a support system that's going to get you there, or even finding a list of contractors sounds daunting, right? All of those systems and tools and resources are in place, and we're teaching 30 plus agents how to do this stuff every single day. So you're more than welcome to come hang out. You're more than welcome to come see a team meeting and actually see this in person. But
do you guys know who Mr. Beast is?
Yeah.
You must know who Mr. Beast is. So I saw a post the other day ripping on consultants. Someone was like, consultants are the worst. They get paid so much money. They don't do anything. And then someone posted and said, Mr. Beast's like post on Twitter, he said, consultants are the, and in this case, the term encapsulates a lot of things. And consultants are the best thing in the world because they already know something that you don't know. Instead of you having to go out and learn it from the beginning, you could literally just say, hey, teach me that what you know about that thing. In this case, that in real estate, it's just teams, right? Like, we already know, we already have done it. We already know how to do it. All you need to do is reach out and join the team, and you'll get that knowledge. You basically snap your finger in that
a lot
case.
less than a consultant costs, though.
And it's a lot less, yes. But I like that point a lot because it does make it a lot easier. Or you're at a brokerage and there's another agent doing a lot of business, and you just go take them to lunch and talk to them about it. There's a lot of ways to do that. That's all we have this week on the Nerdy Agent Podcast. And as always, remember, be better